Have you ever been having a great day, feeling confident, and then someone plays back a video of you talking? Suddenly, your heart sinks. You think, wait, is that really me? Do I actually sound like that? It's an instant, visceral wave of cringe. You might even feel a little bit of a physical shiver, like you just heard nails on a chalkboard. But here's the kicker. That voice you're hearing on the recording, the one you absolutely despise, is the exact same voice your friends, your family, and your coworkers have been hearing every single day of your life. To them, it's just you. To you, it sounds like a complete stranger who is somehow trying to ruin your reputation. This phenomenon is so universal that scientists actually have a formal name for it: voice confrontation. And today, we are going to dive deep into the psychology and the hidden physics of why your own voice feels like your own worst enemy. Because the truth is, you haven't been hearing the real you for years. You've been living a lie, and your brain is struggling to handle the truth.
Think about the last time you heard a recording of yourself. Maybe it was a voice memo you sent, or a clip from a birthday party. Why does it sound so much higher? Why does it sound thinner, or more nasal, or just generally annoying? If you've ever felt like your recorded voice sounds like a cartoon character compared to the smooth, resonant narrator you hear inside your own head, you aren't alone. In fact, studies show that a staggering majority of people find their own recorded voice unpleasant. But why? Is it just insecurity, or is there something deeper happening in our biology? To understand this, we have to look at the way sound actually travels to your brain. There are two primary ways we hear sound: air conduction and bone conduction. When you listen to a friend talking, or a bird chirping, or music playing, you're experiencing air conduction. Sound waves travel through the air, enter your outer ear, hit your eardrum, and eventually reach your cochlea, which translates those vibrations into signals for your brain. This is the standard way of hearing.
But when you speak, things get complicated. Because your vocal cords are located inside your own body, the sound doesn't just travel out of your mouth and back into your ears through the air. Instead, the vibrations from your vocal cords travel directly through your skin, your soft tissues, and most importantly, your skull. This is called bone conduction. As these vibrations travel through the dense bones of your head, they get distorted. Specifically, bone is very good at conducting low-frequency vibrations. It acts like a natural equalizer, boosting the bass and making your voice sound much deeper, richer, and more resonant than it actually is.
So, for your entire life, you have been listening to a remixed version of yourself. You're hearing a blend of the air-conducted sound and the bass-boosted bone-conducted sound. In your head, you sound like a professional podcaster or a movie trailer narrator. But the recording device, it doesn't have the benefit of your skull bones. It only captures the air conduction. When you play that recording back, you are hearing your voice without the bass boost for the very first time. Your brain looks at this thin, high-pitched sound and says, "That's not us, that's an imposter." This creates a massive gap between your self-perception and reality, and that gap is where the cringe lives.
But the physics of sound is only half the story. There is a massive psychological component to this as well. Think about how much of your identity is tied to your voice. Your voice is how you express emotion, how you command respect, and how you connect with others. We all have an internal, idealized version of ourselves. When we hear a recording that contradicts that image, it triggers something called cognitive dissonance. It's the mental discomfort we feel when we are presented with information that clashes with our core beliefs. You believe you sound authoritative and mature, but the recording makes you sound, in your opinion, childish or awkward. Psychologists have found that this reaction is similar to the mirror effect. You know how you look at yourself in the mirror every day and you think you look fine, but then you see a photo of yourself that hasn't been flipped and you look wrong? It's because you're used to the mirrored version of your face. Your voice is the same way. You are so accustomed to the internal, vibrating version of your speech that the external version feels like a betrayal.
Interestingly, there's a study that took this even further. Researchers played recordings of people's voices for them, but they didn't tell the participants which voice was theirs. When people didn't know they were listening to themselves, they actually rated their own voice as being quite pleasant and attractive. But the moment they realized the voice belonged to them, their ratings plummeted. This suggests that our hatred isn't actually about the quality of the sound itself, it's about the vulnerability of being exposed. When you hear yourself, you aren't just hearing pitch and tone. You're hearing your accent, your fillers, your stutters, and all the tiny vocal tics you didn't realize you had. You're hearing the unfiltered version of your personality. It's like seeing a candid photo of yourself from a bad angle. We feel a loss of control. We realize that we don't actually know how we come across to the world, and that lack of control can feel incredibly unsettling.
Now, you might be wondering, does this ever go away? If you talk to radio hosts, singers, or YouTubers, they'll tell you the same thing. They hated their voices at first too, but over time, the cringe fades. This is due to a psychological process called habituation. The more you hear your recorded voice, the more your brain begins to accept it as the true version. Eventually, the discrepancy between your internal voice and your external voice shrinks, and you stop reacting with horror. You realize that the thin voice on the recording isn't actually bad, it's just different. In fact, there's an evolutionary reason why we might be so sensitive to our own vocal cues. Throughout human history, our voice has been a primary tool for survival. It signals our health, our status, and our intentions. If we perceive our voice as weak or off, it triggers a social anxiety response. We worry that others are judging us the same way we are judging ourselves. But here's the secret. They aren't. Remember, everyone else has only ever known your recorded voice. To your friends and family, that voice is associated with your kindness, your humor, and your personality. They don't hear the missing bass because they never expected it to be there in the first place. When they hear you speak, they aren't analyzing your frequency response or your nasal tones. They're just listening to their friend. So the next time you hear yourself on a recording and you feel that urge to hide under a blanket, try to remember the physics. Remind yourself that you're just a victim of your own skull bones. Your head has been lying to you your whole life, giving you a private, bass-boosted concert that no one else was invited to. The voice you hear on the recording isn't bad, it's just the honest version.
It's a strange thought, isn't it? That we are the only people on the planet who don't truly know what we sound like. We spend our whole lives communicating, yet we are the ones most surprised by the sound of our own words. But maybe that's the beauty of it. Our voice is a gift we give to others, a bridge between our internal world and the outside. And even if you never learn to love the way you sound on tape, you can at least find peace in knowing that the cringe you feel is just a sign of your brain trying to reconcile two different versions of the same person.
So, here's a challenge for you. Record yourself talking for just 1 minute today. Talk about your day, or read a poem, or just ramble. Then listen to it. Don't cringe, don't turn it off, and don't judge. Just listen. Do it again tomorrow, and the day after. Eventually, you'll stop hearing a stranger, and you'll start hearing yourself. And once you accept that stranger as a part of you, you might find that you have a lot more to say to the world than you ever realized. Because at the end of the day, it's not the sound of the voice that matters, it's the message it carries. And your message is worth hearing, no matter what frequency it's delivered in.